I'm going to hope to tell you some things about bees that maybe you don't know. And looking over the average age, you already know about the birds. Okay? We're going to talk about bees tonight only, okay? And you can put the two together if you want to. Okay. A little bit about myself. As of Friday, this coming Friday, I've lived in Mountain Home 61 years. So I've been here a long time. And graduated from high school here. And started keeping bees not too long ago, approximately 44 years. And started with a few hives, not knowing anything about bees. Because everybody that had bees back then just had them in their backyard just for honey and whatever. And at that time, you could put bees out in your backyard and forget about them. Today, it's not that way. So, been a big change. So I hope to tell you about some of that and what's happening with our bees. And so it's been a big change. So I thought I'd tell you a little bit about what inside a beehive, which maybe most of y'all have not seen. Do we have any beekeepers in here now? Any beekeepers at all? Good. I can tell you whatever I want to. Yeah. All right. So anyway, my involvement, involved in a lot of agricultural organizations, Farm Bureau, cattlemen's, different organizations. I live on a 320-acre farm with 3 brothers. I raise cattle. My wife's a retired school teacher who taught with her, I think, dating both of them. And started with bees at that time. Nobody around kept bees that knew much more than what I did. And so I learned by hard knocks. I kill bees? Yes, I did. But I used it for a learning experience, and it's still that way today. I read books, and back in the late 80s, I had 25 colonies at that time, and that's when the mites came along, and that's the biggest problem we got today. We lost all 25 colonies. I didn't give up. I kept going, and started again the next year, lost them again, but I kept going. So you don't give up in beekeeping. You keep going. And so then I got elected president of Arkansas Beekeepers, which I had never been to a state beekeepers meeting before, but they elected me president. That was my mistake. So anyway, I was president 7 years, the longest of any current president. And we started a bee club in Mountain Home. Well, Ralph Sazelle, some of y'all remember Ralph Sazelle. He was the biggest beekeeper at that time. He tried to start a bee club in the old First National Bank over in the basement, and it never got off the floor for some reason. And so then years passed, and state bee inspector came and taught a bee class, and so with that we formed a bee club in Mountain Home. So I was instrumental in the development of that. So then things went on. We had a bee club here, and then I kept getting more bees. Currently I have approximately 70 colonies, give or take, depending on the time of year. And so things got involved in our bee club. We kept growing. And Game and Fish Center at Yaleville contacted me and said, "Would you teach a bee class?" And I said, "I've never taught anything in my life." "Would you try it?" I said, "Well, I'll try." I didn't have PowerPoint because I didn't know how to turn the thing on, so I just talked off the cuff like I'm doing now. So we set a date, and she called me about 2 weeks later after she announced it and said, "James, we got a problem." I said, "What?" She said, "The first class is already filled." And I said, "What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, we'll have one the next Saturday. Can you do that?" And I said, "I guess so." So we did it. And that's how it took off, with me teaching classes. And as a result of that, I don't take all the credit, people got interested, and now I'm teaching classes every Saturday in February and March somewhere, and sometimes 2 or 3 in the fall of the year. As a result of that, we had a Mountain Home Club. 2 years ago, we met in January we had 101 people present. So Marion County had been after me for years to start a bee club at Yellville. So I was spread thin already, so with 101, we just about had to start a club. So I went to Yellville and started a bee club over there. It was the last meeting, we had about 35 present. So we had a lot of people coming from West Plains over here. So they pressured me for West Plains. So last year I started a bee club at West Plains. And we had 37 at the last meeting. So beekeeping is one of the fastest growing hobbies there is. It really, really is. People are taking interest. Why? I think it's because there are people realizing that we're losing our bees and we want to keep them. And the main reason, I asked surveyed the people taking the classes, why do you want to keep bees? And most of them just to have them. So that's the main reason. Some for pollination, some for honey, combination honey and pollination, whatever, but most of them just want to have them. So that's where we're at today. I'm in charge of 3 bee clubs, 70 colonies. I enjoy bees. Next to God, country, and my family, bees are my next passion. And in that order. And I'll help anybody out that's got a problem. You'd be surprised how many phone calls I got today. I got here a little late. I had to go help a beekeeper put a queen in this afternoon. Well, I had to put it in for him. Some of y'all may know him, Jack Gregory. His dad was a former sheriff, if y'all didn't know that years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so Jack had problems, and he's really not a beekeeper, but I do help him. So anyway, that's what I do. I help people that's got any kind of problems, wherever, and if you got a problem, you can call me, and you be my eyes. I can just about solve all your problems over the telephone. So anyway, I'm going to get started about the presentation, and I can't bring everything because I don't have enough time, but I brought a beehive to show what's inside a beehive in case y'all have never seen inside one. Well, what we do, we start out with what we call frames inside, and these are empty, okay? And then we put in what we call a starter cone, which is this right here. And this is just plastic, snaps in and snaps out. It's embossed with the cells that's identical to what the bees would make. So it's what we call a starter cone. This is actually a plastic foundation coated with wax. Years ago, when I started, it wasn't nothing but we had to buy beeswax that was embossed. And then, as you know, everything is now plastic. So plastic came along in the bee world, and bees didn't like it at first, but now they've developed it a little better, and this is what we've got. And that just snaps in, which makes it simpler. The beeswax was anyway. Anyway, if you want to count after the meeting, there are 3,000 cells on each side. So when one of these frames hatches out with bees, you're going to have approximately 5,000 bees hatch out at one time.
Wow.
At one time. So put this in the starter, and then here's what they start with right here. So you see how they started making the cells. See how they started making the cells. They start drawing on it, and then here's where they've drawn it out. And that's where they raise their young in, where they store their pollen and their honey. And this is another cell that's been used. Dark means nothing. It just means it's travel stain. Means the bees have walked over so much they got it dirty. But it doesn't hurt anything. It's just normal. So that's just a normal color when a beehive's been used. So that's what it looks like inside a hive, and what we look at is called frames. And the typical pattern on a frame is that in a semicircle from this corner like this, you can see how light it is right here, light right here, and dark in here. From this semicircle around here and below is where they raise their young bees. The corners here where you see the yellow is where they store their honey and pollen. Okay? That's why you see the different color.
That's all wax, right?
Pardon me?
That's all like wax?
All this 100% wax.
Awesome.
100% beeswax. Yes.
That plastic thing acts kind of like a nest egg would.
It's just a starter. It's put in there as support.
Oh, okay.
So we're telling the bees how we want them to build their honeycomb.
So they work on
These are
that.
pretty smart.
If we didn't do that, they'd build it however they want to, like they would in a hollow tree.
Yeah.
We gotta do this so we can take the frames out and inspect for any disease or pests we may have. It's a state law, every state's got a law that beehives have to have removable frames,
Oh, I didn't know.
so the beehives can be inspected. Now then, we got 10, this is a 10 frame hive, and normally in a 10 frame hive, the 4, 5, or 6 frames in the middle is where brood is, where the young bees are being raised. The 2 outside frames are normally nothing but honey and pollen. Honey and pollen. So your goal is to have 2 of these boxes full of bees and honey to get you through the winter. And everything above those 2 boxes is what we call our honey supers, where we have nothing but honey, and that's what we rob. We never rob anything out of these 2 boxes because they got to have 50 to 60 pounds of honey to get through the winter. They got to get through the winter because they don't fly till it gets above 55 degrees. In wintertime, we don't have many days like that, and there's no nectar for them to get. So they've got to keep warm and have honey to live to get it to the springtime. Now you may start with 50,000 bees in the fall, but when spring gets here, you may have 20,000. But that's good enough to get a start and keep on going. Okay? Any questions on this right here?
So the bees know how to do this.
Do what?
The bees know where to store stuff, and
They know exactly what to do, yes.
actually we just learn from what the bees do.
That's right.
What's the lifespan of a bee?
We're going to get to that.
Okay,
Do they freeze up and slow down if it's just outside, if they're left outside like?
If they fly above 55 degrees, if you venture too far, they'll fall to the ground dead.
Oh,
Okay, but inside there, they're able to maintain
warmer.
and warm
Okay.
and warm.
It may be 20 degrees outside.
Okay, yes,
In the wintertime, they cluster.
okay.
And the bees on the inside move to the outside and they keep rotating.
oh,
So it might be 20 degrees outside, but where they are in the middle of the colony in a cluster, it can be 50 or 60.
Gotcha.
So you can pull the top off and you can feel the heat come out like you would an oven door.
wow.
But
Okay.
you don't do it too much in the wintertime because you don't want that heat to come out, because then they got to warm it back up again. So I don't even look in my hives in the wintertime. Never look in them at all. Never. Okay? All right, we'll go on and we'll touch some of the things y'all got. This is just a glass beehive that I used to have all the time when I give a lot of talks, and kids loved it. And start off with that. Skip that. Okay? That is a true picture. Central or South America, where they have nothing but the Africanized honeybee. We've got them in the United States. They're in Southern California, all of Arizona, all of New Mexico, all of Texas, 2/3 of Oklahoma, and the southern half of Florida are Africanized. Where most of the bees they have are Africanized, and they have to do beekeeping different than what we do. They have been found in 3 counties in southern Arkansas, around Texarkana, but only found 1 time. But they are our risk counties, and they haven't been found since. We have traps out across the state, and the traps are monitored. The bees are sampled and taken, killed, and sent to the lab in Beltsville, Maryland, USDA lab, to determine if they're Africanized or not. You cannot tell with the naked eye, DNA, or microscope only. They look like any other bee, but they're a lot more aggressive. Okay? So this, evidently, this guy looking at his bee yard or whatever, he lives on his yard, beehive's on a ridge top, and he has to dress his donkey up because the point I'm making here is our immune system is the greatest of most anything. We can take a lot, but dogs and horses cannot take bee stings like we can. They're going to die more quicker with a few bee stings, where we can take several and survive. So he's got to dress his donkey up because that's his mode of transportation. Getting back and forth to the bee yard. So I found out on the internet, read the story about it, and thought it was neat to just put out. So, all right, some of you Bible scholars, where did Noah keep his bees?
Don't know.
I'm there.
In the archives. Oh, I know, but that's what this is Historical Society, right?
We have an archives.
Yeah. So I found that and told my wife to put it on there for me, so I thought that was neat. So anyway, we're gonna go on enough for that. All right, there's 3 kinds of bees in a beehive. And we'll talk about all 3 of them. On the left is the worker bee, the queen bee in the center, and the drone bee, in case y'all can't read, you know. Anyway, we're talking about the queen bee first. There's only 1 queen per hive, only 1 queen. She cannot feed nor clean herself. She relies on other bees. So in other words, the queen cannot live without other bees, and the bees cannot live without a queen. There's no other insect that I'm aware of that lives through the wintertime in a colony like the beehive does. All your other insects, your wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, bumblebees, the queen, which is mated, she hibernates in the wintertime, and then the rest of the workers die off. Hornet's nests you see are empty and at a certain point of the year. Wasp nests are empty. They never return to the old wasp nest and use them again. So in spring, when spring comes, those mated queens come out one by one and start building a little nest and get bigger and bigger and bigger. That's why they're more aggressive in later summer, August, September, than they are right now, because they're just getting a start. But the honeybee is the only one that lives as a colony through the wintertime. Okay? So, the queen cannot take care of herself, so she has one job in the hive, and that's nothing but lay eggs. So from spring until fall, she lays from 1 to 2,000 eggs every day.
Oh my goodness.
She's an egg-laying machine. Okay? We'll come back to that later on to explain why that is so important in a queen. The queen's the most important bee in the hive. If she starts to fail, you got to replace her. If she starts to get mean, you got to replace her. I told my wife that once.
She probably sent you out to
But
live
only
in a
once,
beehive,
you
too.
know, only once. So anyway, she does have a stinger. She can sting over and over again. But unless you become a beekeeper, you're never going to see a queen. She very rarely ever leaves the beehive. Never. Okay? I've handled many queens. I've yet to be stung by a queen bee. Okay? Her lifespan in the wild has been documented 5 or 6 years. In the beekeeper's world, it's different. Commercial beekeepers that do it for a living, the largest one in Arkansas is a good friend of mine. They got 12,000 colonies. 12,000, make over 1 million pounds of honey a year. They put in a brand new queen every spring. Every spring, because their livelihood depends on that queen laying those 1,000 to 2,000 eggs to build that hive up so they can make honey, so they can make and sell.
What do they do with the old queen?
They kill the old queen.
So the new queen makes other queens though, right? Because she's the one that lays eggs.
We're going to touch on
Okay.
that. Got y'all all work concerned now, don't I? I'm going to keep y'all in suspense for a while. Okay? So, in my world, I do it different. I'm a hobbyist. I got more time to look at my queen. If she's got that constant laying pattern where she's constantly laying those 1,000 to 2,000 eggs every day and filling these frames up with eggs and brood and everything, I'll keep her for the 2nd year. Keep her for the 2nd year, but I make a note in my book that she on her 2nd year, if she's 2 years old, then after that she's automatically replaced. If y'all know anything about chickens, I know y'all do, chicken will lay an egg for about 2 years.
Well, I thought we were talking about birds.
Huh? Well, yeah. Chicken will lay an egg for about, for about 2 years. After 2 years, she starts skipping and skipping. She's not worth her feed, so she's got to go. The queen bee is the same way. So if you're not there to catch her in time, then your hive's going to decline. So after 2 years, my queen is automatically gone, and I'll replace her with another queen. Okay? So that's the way it works on queens. She's the most important bee in the hive. If there's a beekeeper ever in doubt about a queen, there's no guarantees on queens, you gotta replace her. You gotta replace her. Okay? We're gonna talk about that. All right, now we go over to the worker bee. That is an undeveloped female, which means she can't mate. There are approximately 50 to 60,000 in an average beehive. 50 to 60,000 bees. They do have a stinger. They can only sting you one time,
And then they die.
then they die. The wasps, yellow jackets, hornets, the other stinging insects that got straight stingers like the queen does, so they can sting over and over again. The honeybee's got a stinger that's got barbs on the end of it like a fish hook. And when they sting you, then the barbs grab a hold of your skin, hang on, the bee pulls away and leaves its stinger, and therefore it's going to die in a few hours because it cannot live without a stinger. Okay? I think the Baxter Bulletin put my hand on the front page of the Baxter Bulletin with the bee stinging me and the bee pulling away with the little string of stuff coming out. It was on the front page. That was years ago. But anyway, so they will die in defense of their hive. Okay? Now then, believe it or not, bee stings are good for you.
Unless you're allergic.
They're good for you. I've got arthritis in my hands and wrists, had it for several years, and when I got started, I was dressed up like a spaceman, and now I work bees dressed like I am today. And you get stung on your hands, and it hasn't cured my arthritis, but it's controlled it. I'm serious as I can be. Serious as I can be. And my wife had a little foot problem, so I stung her. Did I enjoy doing that? Yes, I did. Yep. Anyway, I got a cyst here that I taken out years ago. It flared up. It's arthritis. I stung myself. I had this hurt years ago in the tire business I had. That knuckle started bothering me last year, so I sting myself. Anytime I get a pain, I sting myself, and usually it goes away. Sometimes for a week, sometimes 2 months. It all depends. Wintertime's the worst time for me because the bees aren't flying, and I suffer a little more. But it has controlled my arthritis. So these things are actually good for you. Research it. Research it. Okay? So we got the worker bee, can't sting you. The average lifespan of a worker bee from spring until fall, Vern, 6 weeks. 6 weeks is all the bee lives. So now we go back to that queen laying 1,000 to 2,000 eggs every day. She's got to be doing that to keep replacing the bees that are dying every day and then make the hive grow. That's why the queen is so, so important. Okay? So important. When the queen lays an egg, it takes 3 weeks for it to hatch. When the worker comes out, the first 3 weeks inside the hive is doing household chores. They're what we call nurse bees. They take care of the queen. They take care of the larva. They feed it. They make the royal jelly. They make propolis. They make bee bread, which they feed to the larva and whatever, and they feed the queen. They carry out the dead. They air condition the hive. They do all this work at a certain age. I don't have time to explain it all to you. 2 or 3 day time, they got to do this. Just like when you got bigger, you had different chores than you have to because you got bigger. Same way that nurse bee does. On the 4th week, it graduates to become what we call a field bee or a forager, where they go outside the hive and they gather the nectar, water, and pollen and bring it back to the hive. During that 4th, 5th, or 6th week is when they lose their life. A bird gets them, they lose their way. Thunderstorm gets them, or they just work themselves to death where their wings just can't go no more and they just die. So that's the way it works in that. Okay? Now we go to the bee on the right there. He's nothing but a big old fat lazy bee. the drone. Here's the male bee in the hive. He does nothing in the hive whatsoever. Does nothing in the hive whatsoever. He cannot sting, does not have a stinger. Matter of fact, all the male species of the stinging insects do not have stingers. So only you females are bad. Y'all really
Oh,
are.
come on, we're the protectors.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. He cannot feed or clean himself. Depends on the time of the year. There can be 0 drones, or there can be 500. There can be 500. Right now we got plenty. Spring of the year, the queen will start laying drone eggs. If we get a drought, nectar flow quits, July and August. They don't want that big, fat, lazy bee in their hive eating up their honey they got stored, so they will kick the drones outside the hive. They will gather on the front, and they won't let them back in. Therefore, they die. They don't want them. Same way when the fall of the year comes. When the frost comes, everything gets dead. They don't want that big, fat, lazy bee eating their honey up all winter long, so they kick them all outside on the front. Therefore, they die. Next spring, weather warms up, she'll start laying some more drone eggs, and the cycle starts over again. Okay? So that's the way it works. But he cannot feed himself.
What's the job of the drone? I mean, like,
Pardon?
why a drone? Why does he even lay drone eggs?
What now?
What do you need a
What's the
mail for?
drone's job?
I thought you'd never ask.
Mate with
It's always a
same
woman
as-
that asks that. I'm going to get to it in a few minutes. I'm going to keep you in suspense a little longer.
You don't want this lazy guy.
What does he do? He doesn't do anything in the hive whatsoever. Okay? Okay. All right. Any questions besides that one? Anything else on the 3 bees in the hive?
See, it won't
How long
tell
does he
us.
live? Just that time they
The drone, if he's not kicked out of the hive or whatever, he can live probably 4 to 6 weeks on the average.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay? All right, then that's the side view of the queen. But I teach my class, we'll pass that on up because y'all don't even know what she looks like, but you're not going to find her anyway.
Unless she has a red dot on them like you put on it.
Yeah, they do mark queens. Okay, now then, see these peanuts hanging on the side? They grow peanuts inside the beehive.
Queen cells.
Those are queen cells, which indicates they're in the process of raising a new queen. So when you look at a frame or whatever, then that's what you see, then you know you've got a problem. Either the queen has failed, or she's not laying those 2,000 eggs anymore, or she has died. You know, what you did work in there in time to find it. Or they're getting ready to swarm. Swarm. And while I got this picture up, I think they got some more, but I'm going to run out of time. These brown spots right here are where young bees are getting ready to hatch out. And because they probably don't have a queen, there's fewer and fewer, so that's why you don't see that pattern full all the way around. The queen has probably died right here, and they're making a new one. Okay? So that's how they make it. So they will know within 4 hours if the queen has disappeared. Everything in the beehive works on pheromones. She has an egg-laying pheromone. Once that egg-laying pheromone ceases, then they'll realize we don't have a queen. They say, hey, we've got to make a queen. So they will take a fresh egg, 1, 2, or 3 day old egg, or 4 or 5 day old larva, and build a special cell around it, and it'll turn into a queen.
Is that a 3-week process also?
16 days.
16 days?
Okay? So, here's the deal. It takes 21 days for a worker egg to hatch. It takes 24 days for a drone to hatch. I didn't throw that in a while ago. So, the queen has died, so they're going to build that cell over an existing egg or a larva, and in 16 days, a queen will hatch out.
God is good.
So the same egg that was going to be a worker in 21 days now becomes a queen in 16 days. Nature at its best.
Yes.
God could not have created a better creature, what he did.
Different diet too, right?
21 days for the worker egg, but 16 days for a queen out of the same egg. It's amazing. The difference is the diet the egg is fed. A worker egg is fed a little bit of royal jelly, and the rest is bee bread, which is honey and pollen together, called bee bread. But when they decide to make a queen, it is fed no bee bread at all and fed nothing but royal jelly. Royal jelly makes that egg turn into a queen. I take royal jelly every day. They've done research on royal jelly. You can look it up. Nothing conclusive. It gives you more energy, other things, but here's the saying and the thinking is, if the worker gets a little bit of royal jelly and lives 6 weeks, and the queen gets nothing but royal jelly and can live 5 to 6 years, there's got to be something to royal jelly. I'm going to live to be 125. I take it every day. Take it every day. So that's the key to how to raise a queen bee.
Now, you got all the, I see they've got all these queen cells there. What happens, do they kill the other queens that hatch out? Because there could only be one in there. They kill them?
Yeah. So queens will hatch out one at a time, or sometimes 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 at one time. Depends on the age of the egg that was covered over. Then they will fight. Only one of them will win. Yeah.
Cat fight.
Wow.
Bee fighting.
Okay. Only one queen per hive. I've been lucky enough several times to look in a hive that queens were hatching out. I've caught 8 or 10 queens at one time. We'll call virgin queens before they started killing each other. Those are free queens.
What do you do with them?
Pardon?
You keep that?
What?
You stack up on queen bees?
What do you do with them, she said?
Oh, what I do with it? I use them for other beehives.
Gotcha. Cool.
Otherwise, you got to buy them. You know, whatever. That they're just free queens. All right, now then, you had all those queen cells hatch out. Now you got a brand new queen walking around in there, and now she has to get mated.
That's the only purpose
Drones.
of
That's
the
where
drone.
that big old fat lazy one comes in.
No,
Lazy drones.
no.
She leaves for that.
So, one of the very few times the queen bee will ever leave the hive, once she hatches out and she's the only queen left, she has to grow physically and mature, which takes about 2 or 3 days. It has to be a 70-degree or above day, no strong wind, preferably sun shining, between 12 and 4 or 5 o'clock in the day. She will fly out of the hive. She will fly out of the hive. At the same time, all the surrounding beehives within a mile radius, give or take, those drones in those hives a mile radius away will also be flying out. The drones will fly out to an area that is called a drone congregation area. Even though the drones don't live from year to year, nature has told those drones to go back to the same location. Now that's something else. That's been proven. I've never seen actually a drone congregation area. I've seen videos of it. So they all go out every day between 12 and 4 or 5 o'clock. Now those big old fat bees can't fly for 4 hours. So they come out in shifts. They go out and fly a few minutes and they go back to the hive and there's more drones. Sometimes there might be 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 drones flying up in the air. Now then, her drones are not for her benefit. She flies further than what they can fly. So that takes the risk of inbreeding away, where brother doesn't make a sister. So she flies further than what they do. I wouldn't raise queens for years because I was worried about that. Until I finally figured it out, and somebody convinced me that's the way it works, and it does. So anyway, Queen flies out. 2,000 or 3,000 drones, whatever it is, flying up there. She knows to go to find that congregation area. She'll fly in the midst of them, and there she gets mated. A very rapid mating session, 2 minutes or less. The more she is mated, the better queen she's going to be. The average mating with drones is probably 15 to 25. She flies in the midst of them. The drone mates with her right here. He's just very rapid, and the video shows that he's going down like this, head down at this point right here, below her in midair. He is already dead. One mating time for him and he's done for. Bam, bam, bam. 2 minutes or less. So the more she's mated, the more sperm she has in her to fertilize the eggs, which makes her a better queen. But we're not up in the air to watch how many times she got mated. That's why there's a mystery about how good that queen's going to be. The more she got mated, the longer she's going to have. Because how she fails is because she runs out of sperm. She runs out of sperm to fertilize the egg, and that's when your hive goes downhill.
Does she only go out of the hive one time
One time
in her life?
in her life.
Wow.
That's to mate. Or to swarm. Swarm is coming up next.
I was gonna ask about that, but I'll let you.
Yeah. So that's the mating process of queens and how they work. And so you get a variety of semen, sperm. So that makes a better bee, you might say. You get good bees that way. Yeah. Any questions on that? Nature is its best. Don't know it all. Here to keep bees. Okay. This is what swarming is. This is what swarming is. Swarming is a natural process that happens with bees. It's nature's way of bees reproducing. Springtime. Spring is rebirth. Dogs and cats have litters. Trees start blooming out. Flowers start blooming. You plant your garden. Dogs and cats have litters. Spring is rebirth. So, swarming is reproducing of the bees, where they split the hive and start another one. Okay? So, for us, swarming starts around the 1st of April and ends around June the 30th. The peak being April 15th to May 15th. Our peak is over with. 95% of our swarming's been done. And we'll have some more, 5% more throughout here or there, whatever, with some hives that build up late or whatever. 2 reasons they swarm. Number 1, it's natural for them to do that, to think about it. Also, if you let your hive get crowded, not enough room, then they say, we got to get the heck out of here. So half of them leaves. When they do swarm, they leave with the old queen. They leave with the old queen. So there are 3 separate swarms there, 3 different sizes. There is a queen in each one of them that came from 3 separate hives. In the process, before they swarm, they know they're going to do it. So here's the signs we look for as beekeepers. Right before they get ready to swarm, they start making those queen cells. They know they're going to swarm. So the queens will make a cell, and the queen will come and lay an egg in it because she knows she's got to be replaced. So she's laying the egg that's going to replace her. Okay? Then they push her off to the side and won't let her lay any more eggs until they swarm. The reason for that is if she's not laying eggs, she shrinks a little bit. She shrinks in size so she can fly with the swarm. If she's full of eggs, she can't fly very well. So 3 or 4 days before they swarm, whatever the time frame is, then she shrinks. She's not laying eggs. That way she's able to fly. So they already start the queen cells. So about 5 or 6 days after the hive swarms, new queens will be hatched out in this hive to take her place. Okay? So, if you see a swarm like that, do not be afraid of it. They're not in a stinging mood. When they left the hive, they had filled themselves full of honey. Because wherever they go to, they got to go to a new home, a hollow tree, wall of a house. They're going to start off with nothing. Nothing. Just like you on a Sunday afternoon, ate a great big old dinner, you're laying on the couch, you don't want nobody to bother you. That's the way they are. They're not in a stinging mood. So if you see them in your backyard or something like this, don't panic. Call a beekeeper, call somebody. We'll come and get them. They're a free bunch of bees for us. A free bunch of bees. They're going to be there 2 hours or 2 days, and they're going to be gone anyway. It's just a resting place for them. It's a resting place. The most I've ever caught in 1 year was 32
Swarms?
swarms.
And what did you do with them?
Put them in the boxes.
Put them in a box? So you put them in a box?
Freebies.
I'm trying to think how my daughter did hers when she got the box of bees.
Called a package bee. Come a little box.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's called a package.
And so you've gathered this swarm. What do you gather it in?
5-gallon bucket.
5-gallon bucket. And dump it into your hive.
Dumped into the hive.
Got it.
Yeah.
Dressed up like a donkey.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we catch a swarm? Very carefully.
Don't look it up there and clip.
No, I don't cut any limbs. A lot of people do. They may be in somebody's dogwood tree or something they don't want to cut. I don't cut limbs. I've only cut 2 or 3 limbs. That's only because I had no other resource. But normally they're on the end of a limb, usually 8 or 12 feet off the ground, 8, 10, or 12 feet off the ground. They're hanging on a limb, and they're all hanging to each other. This one in the middle is probably about 15,000 bees. This one is 25,000, 25,000 plus. If y'all want to gauge how many bees will be in something like that. All those are good enough to get a hive started. Good enough to get a hive started. I caught about 16 this year. We had a cold May, if y'all remember right. Bees didn't swarm like they normally did, and probably swarmed and I didn't get calls for them or whatever. Nobody didn't know anyway. So what, they normally on the limb there, they got scouts out looking for a new home. And as soon as those scouts found a new home, they come back and lead them to a new home. Heard a speaker that wrote a book, Tom Seeley. I met him, talked to him. He lived in the woods. He figured out what they do. Very intelligent man. When those scouts go out and come back, they actually have a meeting and vote on which location to go to. I'm serious. He figured out what they do. And that's what they do. They figure out where to go. And then when those scouts figure it out, then all the bees will come off that limb, get in the air. When they're all in the air, they take off and go to their home. So anyway, how I catch these, pretty simple. Some are a little more worse than others. I'll show you pictures. You walk underneath the limb, you got a 5-gallon bucket, a cardboard box, or whatever you got to put it in. I use a bucket because it's got a handle on it, it's light, easy to carry up a ladder. Put that underneath there, you raise that limb up, put your 5-gallon bucket underneath there, and just go jerk, jerk 2 or 3 times. They'll all fall in there. 95% of them will fall in.
Wow.
You won't get all of them. You won't get all of them, but you'll get 95% of them.
And the queen?
Well, hopefully if the queen's in the middle, you give a good clean jerk, you'll get the queen first time. Yes. And then you come and dump it on the hive, and then those 5% that's left up there, whatever is left up there, as soon as they get in here, you got the queen in here, they'll stick their tails up in the air, flapping their wings so fast you can't see it. They're passing that queen's pheromone around and say, she's down here, come on down. So you wait an hour or so, and all those bees would be down here in the hive.
Okay. So when you go to collect that, you take a 5-gallon bucket in a hive box like this, shake them off, dump them into the bucket, and then just let the hive sit there. You pour them onto the hive, let the hive sit there for a couple hours, and then transport the hive once the rest of them have joined it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's somebody's place that they understand, I usually like to leave the hive there till dark. That way they're all inside, because I may be in the hayfield, cutting hay or whatever else, and I got things to do. But if they don't understand and they said, no, get them heck out of here. So I said, okay, we got to wait a little bit. So an hour, I usually wait about an hour. By that time, majority of them, almost all of them are in by that time. And by that time, I'll go and close them up and move, and what few stragglers are up there will find their home someplace else.
Right.
That's what I do. But most everybody is cooperative. They understand once you explain it to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Now then, I do one thing different, and I do this for two reasons. Number one, to show off a little bit. And then another thing is so I can find a queen. Instead of dumping on top of the hive is sitting on the ground, I take a piece of plywood with me and I lay the plywood on the ground right in front of the beehive. And I dump those bees on top of the plywood. And it is something to see. I'd like to video it someday. They'll march in that hive like an army.
To the wall.
It's beautiful to watch. I've had several people in town that've been there, and I've done this so we can find a queen.
You're just looking as they march into the
As
entrance.
they marching in there like an army, they just start moving in. And if I find the queen, I catch her and put her inside the hive. And as soon as I do that, I mean, they really rush in at that point. Because the queen's in there, they can smell her pheromone. Okay? Swarms, easy thing to catch, free bees. Ever see one, call somebody.
What do you do if they're 20, 30 feet high?
What?
What do you do if they're 20 or 30 feet
Get it
high
tall.
in the tree?
I call Jack Greger, and he brings the forklift up there. He's done that.
Say bigger ladder.
2 times years ago at the school at the end of Main Street up there, alternative school now, and then 1 year at the kindergarten, they had bees in the tree. And they called me years ago, that was years ago. I think we had a volunteer fire department at that time. It was in the schoolyard during the middle of the day, and the principal knew more than I did. He had to have those bees removed. I said, they're not going to bother anybody. They're there. You know, they're going to find a new home. Well, I guess he thought security-wise and everything. So I said, I can't get them. I said, the only thing I can do is have a fire truck with a ladder on it. 10 minutes later, here comes the fire truck. So, guy driving the truck, I don't know who it was now. I got the ladder, and he run me up there, but he never got out of his truck. Never got out of his truck. So I got up there and got them down. Of course, during the process of getting them down, a few of them missed the box, they fell on the cab of the truck. So I got them all down, I came down the ladder and got down on the ground. He rolled his window down about that far, said, how did I get these bees off the cab? And I said, drive down the road 50 miles an hour.
Right.
So off he went, you know. Then we went to kindergarten. They called me, and Walker called me, and I said, I can't get them. I got a bucket truck or something. So first thing you know, here comes a bucket truck. Nobody had to operate. I had to learn how to operate a bucket truck first thing, you know. But I did it. Got them down. So that's how I get them down there up there. Years ago, people took a shotgun, and they would shoot the limb they were on, hoping to jar them loose, and they re-land at another location lower down. That's what a lot of them did. But 30 feet above, if you can't got anything to get to them, you just count your losses and go on.
When I was a kid, 15, 16 years old, I'd have to climb a tree, tie a rope around the limb, saw it off, and then stepdad let them down the hive.
Sure, I've done that too, but a lot of people today won't let you cut limbs.
Well, this was on the wrong place.
I know that. I know things are different now. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, things are different now. So anyway, that's the way swarms work, and it's a natural way that happens with bees. If you forget to call me or can't get me, call the county agent. They all know a beekeeper. Call the police department, they know me. Fire department knows me. And Game and Fish knows me. So call somebody and tell them you got a bunch of bees, and somebody will know somebody will come and get them. If I'm out of town and they call me, I got a bee club that's willing to come get them anywhere, anytime. So don't let them go away. We need to keep them. We need to keep them. So if you see a bee swarm, leave them alone. They're not going to bother nobody. And a beekeeper will come and get them. You know, yeah. And they're not going to hurt a soul. Okay? That was on a concrete wall. A little bit hard to get off. You can't shake the wall, but it's doable. Take a bee brush and I put a 55-gallon barrel underneath there and a beehive on it, and I kind of smoked them and brushed them down. So everything is doable. Sometimes it takes a little longer. You can't shake the wall. This one's a little more tough.
Oh, wow.
This was at Baxter Lab many years ago. They was in the parking lot. It was about to get off of work. It was a cold day. I had no reason to know why they swarmed, but they did. I had a jacket on. They were irritable because of the weather, and you can't shake the fire hydrant. It probably took me about an hour to get them out of there. Not knowing where the queen is in that wad. It's not a typical swarm, but I did get them.
What'd you do, smoke them and brush them?
I smoked them, brushed them lightly, yeah. And they were still irritable because they shouldn't even swarm. It was like 45, 50 degrees, so they wouldn't hardly move. That was the problem. I did one over at Ultimate Ford about 3 years ago, same way on the gas meter, and it was a drizzle rain that day. And I don't know why in the world they swarmed that day, but they did. And Ultimate Ford called me, and I went out, and I got there in about 30 minutes. It was less complicated than that, but they had smaller pipes. So all kind of situations that swarms are in. Doing things there at the end of a dead tree that behind a bank on 62 East. We've got them down, and there's a big swarm there. Another swarm. At the left, there's another big one. All shapes, all sizes, hanging different ways. Okay, this is the bottom of a queen cell. You can see the royal jelly, it's pearly white. You can see at the bottom cell, see that little larva curled in there? That's where they can tell what queen cell is, that queen's going to hatch out. And that's the royal jelly, which is the food. They put a bed of royal jelly in there, and that's her diet till she hatches out. That's a too busy picture. There's a bee sting on the end of my finger. That's what it looks like. It's black. So how do you get a bee stinger out of you? When a bee stings you, it's got a little, it goes in your body, it's got a little sac on the end, contains the venom. And even though the bee is gone, there's a muscle on each side, and you can watch it if you want to, and it's moving up and down like a piston. And each one of those pumps that does it, it puts a little more venom in your body. So the more longer you leave it, the more it's going to hurt. Okay? So you want to reach down with your fingers and pull it out of there. No, you don't. So you reach down with your fingers, you're grabbing that sac, and when you squeeze it and pull it out, you're giving yourself a full shot. Okay? Me, that's okay, because I want it. Okay? So take a sharp object such as your fingernail, knife blade, credit card, and scrape it. Scrape it off. But I've watched them long enough, and actually, they move. You can see it moving. You see it moving. Most I've been stung at one time was 50 or 60 times.
Really?
Did not swell, didn't have to go to the doctor or hospital, nothing. There's another man with me, retired state trooper, I'm not going to mention no names. He was standing about 100 feet away. He got stung one time. He came to my tire shop, and the next day his whole arm was swelled up. He was checking on me. I was worried about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we got the swarm down, but it was my fault. I miscalculated. Don't have time to explain it. But it was on way up high. I had to put a ladder in the back of my truck, throw a rope up there like Howard was talking about, pull it down. I was estimating how I was going to do it, but when I actually got it lined up and did it right, I jerked it harder than I was going to, and then it landed on me instead of my box. So anyway, that, it, you know, no big deal. Now I know I can stand 50 stings, okay? So that's great. But I tucked my head down, so I got stung back here and on this arm. And nothing swelled, nothing. So I'm glad to know that, because I know I can still take the stings. That's what we call bearding in the summertime. When the hive gets full and gets 95, 100 degree days, they get inside the hive. Bees generate amounts of heat, and they got to get out of the kitchen. It's too hot in the kitchen, so they come out and they hang on the front of the hive all night. And when daylight comes, they start drifting off to go do their work. When the afternoon comes, they build back up. It's called bearding. I get all kind of calls about that, even though I tell them in the class. But it's a typical thing that happens. So there's nothing wrong with the hive. It's just the temperature. They're cooler on the outside than they are inside. There's a queen hatching out. She draws a little circle around there, a little hinged door, you might say. And she gnaws her way out, and she comes out. Something to watch. See a queen hatch out. I got the queen cell, and I just had it in my hand. And you just hatch out in your hand. Guy from Yellowville called me not long ago, he was messing around with one, and he was excited, he had to call me, tell somebody, because he had a queen hatch out in his hand. Never had it happen before, but he said, I'm a new father now, you know. He was excited, 'cause, you know, but it is something to see, really, you know. I mean, well, all the years I've done this, I've seen done everything with bees, I guess, but he just brand new, and it was a brand new thing for him. So really, he had to tell me, so I was glad he did. There's several queen cells. The bigger the cell, the more textured it is, the better queen it's going to be. So a lot of times you can go in there, you can knock them all off but one, and that way you keep them from fighting and everything. So you can do that.
Do the queen cells have to be maintained by the other bees, or if you see these, could you go and pull 4 of those out and take them and separate them and get 4 queens out of that?
Yeah, what you can do, yeah, I do that a lot. That's when I go through my cell. You can cut those off very carefully. Be sure to don't mess up the back end of it. Take your knife and cut it off, and you can take it and press it into the wax right here that's got bees on it, and they'll accept that as a queen.
And put it in.
So I can take 4 of those queen cells, leave 1 for that hive. I can take 4 queen cells and put 1 in each 4 different hives right on here, and start me a new hive with got bees. Yes, I use them.
Okay.
Question somewhere?
Same question.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's different things you can do with bees, and that's how you get free queens. And you utilize what nature's giving you.
Right.
You know, because they're going to kill each other. Yeah. Yeah, I've done that several times. And if you want to start another hive, you just reach in here, it's got a frame right here, it's got bees on it, got eggs on it. Just stick it over into another hive with bees on it, walk away, 16 days, you're going to have a queen.
And they're going to say there's no more pheromone in this new box, and they're going to turn it into...
They're going to make a queen, in 16 days you'll have a queen in there.
Oh.
That's how you make queens. It's as simple as that.
Wow.
Okay.
Simple as that. Anytime you want to make a queen, you can. So I got several what we call nooks, half a hive, it's called fire frames, it's called nooks or nucleus. I got several of those, I put them over there all the time. Somebody called me, you got an extra queen? Yes, I do, come and get it. $30. So you know.
Got an extra queen?
What?
Have you got an extra
I
queen?
see you got an extra queen.
We're buying our hives this week.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah, so I sell queens because I just utilize the queen cells and just make them queenless, and then somebody's always calling me, needing a queen. Jack Gregory had to have a queen, you know. He goofed up, he went and knocked all his queen cells off, didn't know what he was doing, so therefore he could not make a queen because he knocked the queen cells off. He called me and said, I think I'm queenless. So I said, what'd you do? Well, they swarmed on me, and I came back, I was on vacation, and I came back and saw those queen cells, and I knocked them off. Did I mess up? I said, you messed up big time. So yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So anyway, that's what you do. Okay? Here's what happens too. See that queen cell with a hole in the side? Sometimes the queen will come through there before queen hatches out. She'll go up there and she'll gnaw a hole in the side, and she'll turn around and sting that queen to death before she hatches out. Yeah, you women are bad. Bad. There you are. Okay? There's queen cells with royal jelly and different size larvae. That's what a bed of it looks like. There's a queen that's marked. She's always got a circle of bees around her because she can't take care of herself. So if she's not laying eggs, she'll have an entourage around her, feeding her, taking care of her. You always look for a circle of bees. There's another queen hatching out. That's what a brood pattern looks like that I showed you earlier about frame. You see the brood pattern. This is a close-up picture, I guess, but see the honey in the corners? You know, all this brown all the way in that semicircle, that's the bees getting ready to hatch out. Like I showed you earlier on the frame there. Okay, that's a busy picture. There's a mating flight in progress, mid-air. There's multiple queen cells. That's a different problem. That's when you go queenless for a while. Queen lays 1 egg in the cell, you got multiple eggs there. And you go queenless, and this is your beekeeper's fault for not catching it. After 3 or 4 weeks or whatever else, one of the workers, which is the undeveloped female, she'll kick her ovaries into gear, she'll start laying eggs. And she'll lay multiple eggs, and because her abdomen's not long as a queen, she can't reach the bottom, so they'll be hanging on the side. And then you can't requeen it because the bees think that worker is now their queen. So we got a problem. So the only way you can do that is to combine that hive with a strong hive, and then they'll figure out the laying worker and kill her. And then you can do that. But there's ways of doing it. But this is the beekeeper's fault for not paying attention, letting it go too long. And this is what happens because nature takes over. And since she can't mate, she don't have any sperm, those will hatch out. Some of them, they'll hatch out into drones, and they'll be inferior drones. I didn't mention this, but a drone comes from an unfertilized egg. When the queen lays an egg and she fertilizes it with the semen, then it turns into a worker. If she makes a drone, she just lays the egg without fertilizing it. It turns into a drone. So that's why that can turn into drones. Now, if you want to research this tonight, on your mind, a drone does not have a father but has a grandfather. Go figure. It'll be a long time to figure that out.
Does a drone cell look differently?
Huh?
Does a drone cell look differently?
Yes,
than a worker cell?
yeah, let me back up a little. I don't have a good picture of that. I'm going to take a better picture. Yeah. Queen cells hanging down. If you can see those little protrusions right there, look like a 22 bullet looking at you, those are drone cells. And because you don't have but 0 or 500, you're not going to have very many scattered through the frames, but they protrude outward. The queen cells hang down, the worker cells are flat. These are sticking out about that much. It's like the end of a 22 bullet. Yeah, I passed through that because it was, but anyway, I should have mentioned that. That's what drone cells look like. And if you get too many of them, say your whole frame, you got a problem because the queen's run out of sperm. She's still laying eggs, but they're becoming drones because she can't fertilize them. So there again, you got to recognize the problem. So the several things, beekeeping's easy, but a lot of things you got to know. That's what it is. Okay. There's a swarm in progress. The air just gets full. At that point, you can't stop them. They're already going to do it. And they all come out, the air just full of them, you walk in the middle of them, whatever. As soon as they all come out or whatever else, they just land, they land real close to the hive they came from. I got certain trees that I never will cut down. I may cut the tops out so they get taller, but they use those same trees year after year. Year after year. This guy lived up by Cooper Park, Bradshaw. He had some hives there for a while, and they swarmed in the neighbor's dogwood tree, I believe it was. Every year they swarmed in the dogwood tree. And one year it couldn't get to him, and he got a little health problems, so he called me, and I went over and got him down for him. But they just swarm real close to the beehive, real close. There you see multiple stages. You see the egg, you see the white thing sticking here are eggs. Then on the 4th day it hatches into a larva. Then the larva gets bigger. And then on the 9th or 10th day, the cells are sealed over, and the larva hatches into a pupa, and the pupa into an adult. Then on the 21st day, the bees gnaw their way out and come out. But that egg is hard to see. A lot of people can't see it, but they can definitely see larvae. They say that in the book, an egg is the size of a grain of rice. I think it's smaller. The way I describe it is, you can cut off the tiniest piece of white sewing thread you can cut off, that's what it looks like to me. First day, the queen lays the egg, it's standing straight up. The 2nd day stage, it's laying at a 45-degree angle. On the 3rd day, it's laying flat on the bottom. On the 4th day, it starts to curl. That's when it's changing from an egg into a larva, and then it curls more, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So I can tell by looking at the egg, how long ago she was there laid the egg. And I'll track the queen by finding her eggs and everything. Where you don't see larvae or sealed cells, empty cells, that's where the queen's going to be. Because she's not going to be looking for lay eggs where she's already got eggs.
Right.
So I mean, it's just something to figure out. I can find a queen in both my hive and most anybody else in 5 minutes or less. It just comes from experience. I can't tell you how to do it, but it's just something knowledge that I just gained. People have trouble finding queens. And because there's one queen in 50,000, you know.
Yeah.
And they look alike sometimes. That's what the brood pattern looks like. All the sealed cells sealed over, all that brown thing you see are just flat. Those are our bees get ready to hatch out within 10 days. Once they're sealed, you can't tell how long ago they've been sealed unless you keep a record of it. What, you got a question? No, okay.
In my phone. I mean, it's in my chair.
that's the biggest problem we got today, the mite. It affects our larvae, sucks the blood out of them, and the biggest problem we got is we're trying to kill a bug on a bug. We can't do it. So, they got some chemicals out, some of them pretty harsh. I haven't treated my beehives in 8 years for mites, and I'm practically mite-free. I use other methods besides chemicals, and but I don't have a problem with mites. But that's the problem we got. It's going to be around right now. We have nothing to kill them. When they came in the late 80s, we had nothing at all. They brought out two kinds of medicine. It didn't work. And 2 years later, they brought out 2 other kinds of medicine. We're still on the market today, but not used much because it's the beekeeper's fault. Because like anything else, the beekeepers didn't follow the label, misused it, and the mites built up a resistance to it. So one of them's been out long enough now that the resistance is gone, but it's only recommended to use it once every 2 or 3 years.
So what do you use?
What do I do? Well, first of all, I have screen bottoms on my beehives.
Screen bottom.
Screen bottom with the bottom of it, didn't have time to bring everything, but years ago we had wooden bottoms. All right, we've gone to screen bottoms now for several reasons. Number one, it gives the hive more ventilation and makes the hive healthier that way. And the mice will fall off the bees from time to time, or the bees will groom each other and groom the mice off. Well, if they fall down and went to a wooden bottom, then they would crawl back up in the hive or latch onto a bee. Well, if you got screen bottoms, the mite will fall down to the screen, go to the ground, there's nothing down there, therefore they die. They got to have a bee to survive. So it's been proven that up to 40% of your mites can be controlled by having screen bottoms. And then we also have what,
When you were speaking earlier, you said something about you lost 25 hives to mites,
yes,
and when was that?
late 80s, I don't think what year, 87, 88, I don't know the exact year.
This is the last time that you encountered them?
Yes, oh yes, they started somewhere across the United States, and state bee inspector, they got on the other side of Lake Norfolk, and he come around, he said, oh, we're going to be okay, they can't jump the lake. Well, wrong, they did, you know, I mean, and I told him this for years, and I verified it by the Entomology University of Arkansas, a friend of mine. You cannot quarantine a flying insect.
That's right.
You know, you cannot do it. I can quarantine my cow, or a pig,
Right,
or a
but
chicken.
not a fly.
You cannot quarantine a flying insect. He thought you could quarantine bees and everything wouldn't spread. Well, the bees go from hive to hive, you know, so whatever. So I can't tell you what year it was. Yeah, it was late 80s, I know that for a fact. It's in all the books, you know, and whatever, but late 80s, 87, 88, somewhere like that. We've had them ever since. We're going to have them. Right now there's nothing going to kill them, but we've got methods of doing it. So the actual loss every year in the wintertime, the loss of bees is in the wintertime because lack of food. They don't have enough food on them. You got to have 50 or 60 pounds to get through winter. If you don't manage that, they may not make it to spring, especially if you have a late winter. And then if they don't take care of the mites, then they're going to lose some bees. So the national average right now is 30 to 40% lost over the wintertime.
Wow.
Last year I had 55 hives down south at South Little Rock. I only lost 6 out of 55. That's a very good average. I'm tickled at the way I keep bees. And the state bee inspector did a survey on some of my bees 3 or 4 years ago, sent the samples off to the USDA lab at Beltsville, Maryland, and it came back that I had mites, but way below the threshold. And so I was tickled, and he was amazed that we saw no mites at all when we went through the hives. And so I've been that way ever since, and I just don't do much at all.
So other than screened bottoms, what else do you do? Or what did you start doing?
Well, that's the main thing I do. Another thing you can use is what we call the powdered sugar method.
Okay.
Powdered sugar. You make your frame that fits on the top, make it out a window screen. and you put a cup of powdered sugar on the window screen, and then you take your bee brush or anything you got, and you rub that powdered sugar over that screen, all over it, till it filters all down through the screen. And what that does is powdered sugar is slicky. So when the powdered sugar hits the bees' backs or wherever where the mites are, the mites can't hang on, therefore they fall off. So if you got a screen bottom, they fall through the screen and go to the ground. So Randy Oliver writes for a bee magazine in Northern California, and I've heard him speak several times. I don't know how many times he does. Every time he works his beehives, he powder sugars them. We've got no way to kill the mites, so anything we can do, a little at a time, just keep knocking them back, knocking them back, knocking them back, we're going to survive. A few years ago, probably 3, had an 18-wheeler wreck out here somewhere. And Baker truck went and got the wreck, hauled it in, and the insurance company called him and said, contents, you can do whatever you want to with them. So contents was 50-pound bags of powdered sugar. He had no trouble selling it to all beekeepers. I'm serious.
But since it had been in a wreck, it couldn't be sold for
Whatever,
commercial
yes,
consumption.
They said you can just have it, whatever. Some of the bags were damaged, of course, but you know, what was salvaged, what was solid bags, he sold them. He put the word out, got on Facebook or whatever. I don't on Facebook, so somebody called me and said, hey, so I got 500 pounds. You know, so that's just one way that we can do without using chemical. Yeah. So there's certain ways, but anyway, I'm chemical free. And there's one chemical I would use, but I'm not in the class. So this is what happens when the mature bee hatches out. You can see all the mites underneath, but you can't see with the naked eye on the top side. So this is what our problem is today. And if you listen to the news meeting, which I think is our worst enemy we have, if you lose, well, we lost 30% of our bees this winter. That is true. If you lose 30% every year, in 3 years, you're going to be no bees in the United States, right? They don't say how many people started back up again.
Right.
See, so that's where it comes out. So, you know, and the thing is, most everybody that lost 30% or 40%, if they're in commercial beekeepers, what they're going to make splits the next spring, catch swarms, and they're going to build back up again like I did. Right. See, I lost some 6 down there south where I keep my bees in the wintertime, and I'm up to 70 again. You know. Right. Making splits, catching swarms. So that's just the way it is. But news media don't tell you all that. So, okay. Then that's another thing, wax moths, we have a problem with that. There's another problem we got now, the little black bugs there, it's what we call a small hive beetle. There again, everything we get came from another country. They're after the pollen, and they slime it over. Got a hard shell so the bees can't kill them. They will corral them like cattle, and they'll feed them to keep them alive. And they are a secondary problem, not a primary problem like the mites are. So there are several methods of treating for them. One of them is using oil in what we call beetle traps. That gets kind of messy. And no chemicals that will kill them, because if you do that, you're going to kill the bees. So somebody, somewhere along in the beekeeping world, figured out one thing to use, and it really works good. And I didn't know what it was when I heard about it. Most of y'all know it, and I did not know it. Swiffer pads.
Oh, yeah?
Swiffer pads. Those little things don't fit my hands. That's why I didn't know what it was. I had no idea. I had to go home and ask my wife. It's a pad that you use for the floor that's got no odor to it and it's dry. Yep. You cut the sheets in half, lay it on top of the top box in the corner, and if you got a big problem, the bees will chase the beetles on it. The Swiffer pad is fibrous, so the beetles get on it, get their feet caught, and they can't get out. And you pick it up and look at it, well, they're trying to get out, you know, and you want to help it, but no, you can't do it. And in my class, I got several in the cellophane bag that I had, and one of them, I've got 50 or 75 beetles on one Swiffer pad. So, but I've only had 2 hives that had a problem. They are a secondary problem, not a primary problem, so they're not a big concern. Only if your hive gets weak will you ever have a problem. So the secret to beekeeping is to keep strong hive, which means numbers. and you won't have any problems. All my hives are strong, and that's why I think I'm successful. If I go, in fall comes and I got 2 weak hives, I put them together. Better go through the winter time with strong hives than 2 weak hives. Okay, best thing you can plant for honeybees is white clover, white Dutch clover, mountain home yard. We have bad mice, so not much white clover this year in the yards in mountain home, but the bees love the white Dutch clover. A lot of other things you can plant, you can research it, and there's yellow sweet clover. Okay, the color and taste of honey depends on what the bees feed upon. It's all honey. Honey is the same ingredients, regardless of the color or taste. Same ingredients. It depends on what they feed off of. Some plants make nothing but dark honey. Buckwheat. People in Ohio raise a lot of buckwheat up there. They retire down here, they come with buckwheat honey. They love it. Dark, got a strong taste. They love it, what they grew up with. So anyway, honey is honey regardless of the color or taste. Honey is the only...
I've heard that dark honey is more nutritious than the light honey. Is that true?
I don't think so.
No.
It's the same.
Okay.
It's the same, yeah. Honey is the purest food there is. Germs and bacteria cannot live in it no more than 3 or 4 hours. Reading the old books, before we had antibiotics, they treated burns and wounds and everything with honey. And it healed without leaving a scar. Then antibiotics came along, and now look what antibiotics are doing to us now. Well, verified by a doctor and some other nurses. I had a doctor in one of my classes here this spring. They're now using honey in the hospital here at Mountain Home in Harrison to treat certain wounds with. And it's working. It's working.
They found honey in King Tut's tomb.
King Tut's tomb, that's right. It was,
3,000 years old.
it's still edible. Still edible.
Exactly, still edible.
Yeah.
So there's what's the deal with botulism with honey then? Because you're not supposed to feed an infant honey and...
Because the enzymes or whatever in there, the child's digestive system can't handle it. That's the only reason. The digestive system of an infant, I think it's 2 years and under, I'm not sure the exact date. That digestive system can't handle the enzymes of what's in honey. That's the only difference. There's no disease to it, nothing like this. It's just their digestive system is not.
It's the person, not the honey.
Yeah, yeah. Honey is the only food that will never spoil, never goes bad. Like we found in King Tut's tomb years ago, it was still edible, still edible. Honeybees are the only insects that makes food that humans can eat. Think about that. Look how many times honey's mentioned in the Bible. Look how many times. Bees go back to the beginning of time. Beginning of time. And I read something, they said that honeybees is the only thing that has not changed since the beginning of time, as far as figure. Okay?
You knew where Noah kept his honeybees.
Yeah.
In the ark, how many did he take?
Joanne, I wasn't there, but you were. You tell us.
All of them.
Okay.
Noah didn't have to take any of the flying critters. They all just flew.
came to
I saw
us.
the old thing the other day about Noah's on the ark, and somebody asked Noah, said, "Noah, where are we?" He said, "I think we're in Missouri." Talking about all the flood that happened. You ever see anything? I get kind of looking, I don't know. Anyway, this is where I'm taking bees out of a house south of Yellville, and guy he worked at the bank here in town, and he contacted me. I called a friend of mine who lives south of Yellville, a new beekeeper, and I thought I'd call him and see if he wanted to help and learn how to do that, because I'm not going to be here forever. You see how he's dressed, see how I'm dressed. Anyway, that's a massive amount of bees. There I've got no smoke, no gloves, nothing. I'm looking for the queen. There's 2-foot studs. They were in 2 sections, full of bees. And look at there.
Wow.
Just thousands of bees in there. Got all the bees out. And you gotta lick your fingers because you get honey on them, that's just part of the course, you know, you got.
Now, something like that, you take some of the comb out with it and put it
Yes,
in the hive?
yes, I'm gonna fly through this right quick. Oh, there, I flew too fast. But there, I'm looking for they built the comb exactly in layers, they strengthened it up, and I'm looking for the queen, and I broke all that out. I'm gonna speed up through this class that I teach. There's a big swarm there, and I need to start separating some things, but look at this is all in one class. Take bees out of houses and trees without cutting the tree down, without cutting the house, without taking the board off the house. I'll show you how I do that when, if y'all are kind of halfway interested, and I trap them out. There's a bog there. Another cause I get is big swarm there. This is not a swarm anymore. If you look at the bottom, it's already honeycomb. So they swarmed there, didn't have a place to go. This was at Stuttgart where I was born. Put it on the front page of the paper, wanted somebody to come take them down. This was in September. If they didn't come down, they wasn't going to make it through the winter. So my cousins know I love a challenge, so I went up there, spent 4 hours on a ladder 14 feet off the ground, and I got them all down. Still no protection, no gloves, nothing. Just some way I can work bees. I don't know how I do it, but I do it. And anyway, you see what I'm doing there. I'm taking the comb down. My cousins are down below. They got a knife here, got an empty frame. They're cutting it off right here so I can save all that brood.
Put it on.
That's what I do. And I save all the brood I can. And save it all, put rubber bands around it, hold it in place. When they get, they will seal the comb. That's my heart shape from there. Anyway, when they get the thing hatches out and done with it, then they each rubber band in two, and they will seal the frame, the wax I put in there. They will seal it to a wooden frame.
So we've got 2 queen cells growing there.
Whatever, yeah, I got. They started that because I put an excluder between my bees and their bees to hatch their brood out, so the queen wouldn't get up there and lay eggs, so they thought they were queenless, so they went ahead and made the queen cell. It happens. But once they get the bees hatched out, then I'll throw that stuff away. I don't want it, you know. That's something I want, so I get rid of it. And so that's what I do. And I get calls for yellow jackets in the part of the year. Usually elderly people can't take care of themselves. I do this, get several calls every year. They're prevalent August and September. That's because they build up in numbers. Got to do it at nighttime when they're all inside. And if you want to do anything like that, don't use a flashlight or anything. If you want to work insects at night, use a red light lens, red light. But insects are not attracted to red light. So I carry red lights in my bee bag. And you can work bees all night long, and the bees, you can see them, they look at you, but they will not come and get you because they're not attracted to red light. So I go in at night time when they're all inside, take care of the yellow jackets for people.
What do you do with them?
Do what?
What do you do with them? Do you burn it out? Do you just cut that away? Do you?
You got a tape recorder on?
We'll ask you later.
Okay. Burn them, I hope.
I just pour gas in the hole and that
Pour
kills
gas.
them. Instantly, don't take but a quart or so, doesn't hurt the environment. Evaporate it up and it kills them instantly, cheapest thing there is.
Don't light it, you just pour it in.
Well,
Sometimes you
I
light it.
normally do, I can't hear because it's a flower pot. If it's a clear yard, then I'll get a piece of newspaper, roll it up, wait about 5 minutes, to light the end of it, take it up to the hole, it goes poof, and blue flame will come out, and then they're done for sure. But gas by itself will take care of it. So, yeah, don't you say a word.
Not worth
You say it. Yeah. It's been done for years and it still works.
It still works, that's right.
You know? So anyway, then I get calls for hornets. I fix hornet's nest with hornets in it. Believe it or not, there's a market for hornet's nest, $50 to $100. And people want them to hang in their office or den, you know.
They want them empty.
Huh?
But they want them empty.
They want them empty. Well, after it gets cold, well, I collect them with the hornets in it. What I do.
Really?
I collect them I got one in the back seat of the other pickup now, I'm getting ready to hang up in the county agent's office, hanging up for a display. It's a great big one, it's about that size. Yeah, but I get one or two a year, so people always call me. Yeah, this was, yeah.
No way.
Then we got the bee booth at the county fair, most of y'all been to the county fair, we're proud of that. We've doubled our booth space, and so we promote bees, best we can. We doubled our space, and our bee club has grown, and we got glad to Beehive. We're one of the most attracted bee spots there, booth spots, because people come to us for the bees, and get the honey and the honey sticks we sell. So we're proud of our booth, what we do to promote beekeeping. And that's what we do, and I think that's it.
All
Yeah.
right.
Anybody got any questions?
Does the sheriff get upset when you go robbing the hives?
Well, you don't kiss and tell, okay? Does chemicals kill bees?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I would think it would.
Yep.
Okay, what about local honey?
What about it? We love it.
It's better for you than
Good for your allergies.
far away for allergies.
Okay. Chemicals don't kill bees.
They don't.
No. For 40 years, I was born in Stuttgart, got a lot of family there, and that's all row crop country where they spray everything. I've kept bees down there on them crops for 40 years. To this date, I've never lost a beehive to a chemical kill. Never. Chemical kill, come back, you'll see a pile of dead bees in front of your hive. That's never happened. I'm on 7,000 acres right now, just out between England and Lone Oak, where I pollinate 80 acres of pumpkins this year. They spray the pumpkins, they spray the cotton, they spray the soybeans, they spray the corn.